Talking about criminals and immigrants being criminals. And I just want people to understand what the facts are and the stats are, is that undocumented immigrants are much less likely to have committed crimes than American citizens. American citizens commit more crimes than anyone who is undocumented. I also want to make the point that an undocumented immigrant is not a criminal because he or she is undocumented. That is a civil offense. So to call people illegals is, in and of itself, I think, xenophobic and racist.
Her second great-grandmother had been here for 10 years, yet spoke no English. Oh, my gosh. 1930 census says Tommy's 3 times great-grandmother had been here for 41 years and still spoke German. She didn't speak English either. She doesn't even know her own history. She certainly doesn't know this country's history.
Well, there is a woman over the weekend who took it upon herself to research my family history in hopes of digging up some kind of a gotcha moment, a gotcha angle to validate illegal immigration and open borders. And what she found was really shocking, guys. She found that my family, who came here in the 1800s from Norway and Germany, that they spoke Norwegian and German.
Okay.
And really what she did is prove that my family came here legally.
All right, folks, buckle up, because Sunny Hostin, the self-proclaimed intellectual heavyweight of The View, just got verbally body slammed by Tomi Lahren so hard, CNN might need to file for emotional distress damages on her behalf. What started as another classic smugfest on America's favorite daytime talk show ended in an absolute verbal demolition derby. And let's just say, Sunny didn't even bother bringing a helmet. You simply won't believe what Tomi dragged out from under the rug. Spoiler alert, it's way more damaging than dust bunnies and predictable liberal talking points. Grab your popcorn, because this takedown has more layers than a Kardashian wedding cake and twice the delicious drama.
But what she was hoping to do was try to call me a hypocrite for believing in merit-based immigration. Again, she failed miserably. But this really isn't what she calls resistance genealogy. It's just another indication of Trump derangement syndrome. But I really am happy, though, that she has such a fascination with my family history, and I'm hoping that she will take on Elizabeth Warren's next.
Wow.
Let's set the scene. Sunny Hostin, the human equivalent of a LinkedIn thought leader post desperately trying to go viral, decided it was a brilliant idea to try and corner Tomi Lahren on immigration. Her genius angle? To point out with pearl-clutching shock that Tomi Lahren's ancestors, who legally immigrated from Norway and Germany way back in the 1800s, didn't instantly master the King's English upon arrival. According to census records, Sunny presumably had someone dig up. One ancestor had been here 10 years and spoke no English. Another a staggering 41 years and still spoke German. The horror. Sunny presented this as the ultimate gotcha. The key to unlocking Tomi's supposed hypocrisy for believing in legal, merit-based immigration today.
From Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
As Tomi rightly pointed out, Sunny's attempt wasn't just weak. It actually proved Tomi's point. Her family did come here legally, following the process of the time. Comparing documented immigration from the 19th century to the complexities of the current border situation is, as Tomi put it, apples to oranges. Sunny's meticulously researched gotcha failed miserably, achieving nothing but showcasing a fundamental misunderstanding of the very topic she was trying to weaponize. But hold on, because the story doesn't end there. Oh no, the universe apparently has a wicked sense of humor, especially when it comes to televised hypocrisy.
DNA, 23andMe, because I cannot believe the detail on your background that they were able to get.
Well, I don't have to. She did all the research for me, so I'm sure my family is very appreciative.
What about Joy saying, though, what are your skills? It's beyond research. It is personal. It is mean.
Well, of course, this is classical Joy Behar, but I would like to ask Joy Behar what her skills are, because perhaps we could swap stories. I know I watch Joy and she seems like a highly skilled lady, but for her to attack me, that's really interesting. Those in glass houses should not throw stones.
Shortly after Sunny's attempted ancestry ambush on Tomi, Sunny herself appeared on the PBS program Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to uncovering the hidden histories of celebrities. And what deep, meaningful truth did Sunny discover about her own lineage? Prepare yourselves. Sunny Hostin, the staunch supporter of reparations, the relentless critic of white privilege, the woman who has built a career lecturing America on racial justice, found out she is the direct descendant of Spanish slave owners. Let that sink in. The irony is so thick you could spread it on toast. On national television, viewers watched her genuine shock unfold. I'm in a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican. I didn't think my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders. The woman who tried to shame Tomi Lahren over her great-great-great-grandmother's grasp of English had her own far more problematic ancestral history laid bare for the world to see.
About you that bothers him so much?
Well, it's not just me, it's anybody who advocates for merit-based immigration or has an issue with open borders. And again, just like you said, they don't seem to understand that we on the right believe in immigration. We understand that we are a nation of immigrants, and I am proud of my heritage. However, I do believe that the immigration crisis of today is apples to oranges from what it was in the 1800s, when immigrants came to this country legally, were documented, worked for themselves, asked for nothing, and built a life and a family. That has nothing to do with the illegal immigration crisis of today that we must deal with. But they don't want to acknowledge that whatsoever.
This revelation didn't just undermine Sunny's attack on Tomi, it fundamentally challenged the entire moral high ground from which Sunny routinely operates. Suddenly, her lectures about systemic oppression and historical injustice rang hollow to critics, tainted by the uncomfortable truth of her own family's past involvement in the very systems she decries. Tomi Lahren didn't even need to land a punch. Sunny Hostin, through the sheer, unadulterated force of cosmic irony, body slammed herself. Tomi basically just had to hold up the mirror, and Sunny melted under the reflection like the Wicked Witch of the West caught in a sudden downpour.
During the Obama years, it was a cattle call to come into this nation illegally. And furthermore, this is again the left's attempt at emotional blackmail. And I would just like to state, I don't know if they understand this or not, but if you don't want your family to be broken up when you cross the border illegally, here's an idea. Don't cross the border illegally. Then your family will surely stay together. I don't know why the left can't think of this, but they would rather try to tell us that we hate families, we want to break up families, we're horrible, we're despicable. No, we want to enforce federal immigration law.
Let's be honest, Sunny Hostin has carefully cultivated a brand. She positions herself as the sharpest, most intellectually rigorous voice on The View, which, let's face it, is often like being the tallest person at a Munchkin convention. Her strategy typically involves a potent cocktail of moral superiority, a dash of elitist disdain, and a delivery tone that screams, "I read the Constitution once during law school, and therefore, I am the Constitution." The problem arises, as it inevitably does, when someone challenges her pre-packaged points with actual facts or points out her own inconsistencies. It's often like watching a goldfish try to debate marine biology. Lots of indignant flapping, but very little substance. She gets flustered, her arguments crumble, and she defaults to emotional appeals or accusations of bad faith.
Why do you think you've resonated with so many people?
I think, in large part, I represent Middle America. So you've got the two coasts, and those individuals seem to kind of just talk to each other. And then you've got all of Middle America right there that's dying to have a voice. They don't really feel like they have one. They're not represented, beyond their communities. So I think they watch me and they say, well, she speaks like I do. She thinks like I do. She seems to maybe get it like I do, and I think that's why it's resonated. And also, I do something very different. There's not a whole lot of young conservative women out there, and so I provide that for a lot of young women.
This time, however, the facts weren't just inconvenient counterpoints. They were deeply personal and directly tied to her own identity narrative. Tomi, armed with facts about her own family's legal immigration and the sheer absurdity of Sunny's attack line, coupled with the public knowledge of Sunny's Finding Your Roots revelation, didn't even need to break a sweat. Sunny's argument started off haughty and ended up utterly hollow. You could practically hear her intellectual pride wheezing under the weight of actual evidence and her own glaring hypocrisy. Tomi didn't just expose a simple contradiction, she seemingly pulled back the curtain on the entire Sunny Hostin persona, a carefully constructed facade of performative activism and conveniently selective outrage.
I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
And it is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
And can we talk about Sunny's infamous habit of pretending to be the spokesperson for seemingly every marginalized group under the sun? She treats identity categories like Pokemon cards. Gotta collect them all to win the argument. She often prefaces her points by stacking her personal identity resume like it's the final word in any debate. Woman, Latina, lawyer, moral oracle, honorary professor of whatever topic she Googled 5 minutes ago. Yet this same person who lectures others about understanding different perspectives seemed utterly blindsided by the complexities within her own history. The irony is almost too much to bear. She accuses others of talking down while delivering every argument like a disappointed grad school lecturer who just discovered you cited BuzzFeed as a source.
I have a question of my own. Do you lock your doors at home? At your residence, do you have a lock on your door? Do you use that lock?
I do, yeah, I do.
You have an alarm?
And why is that? You lock your door. You lock your door because you want to know who's coming into your home. It's not because you hate the people outside. It's because you love the people inside. Well, that's what needs to be done with the United States of America. That's why we have a border. We have a right to know who's coming into our country and why. That's what keeps us safe.
But when Tomi flipped that mirror, when the uncomfortable reality of her own ancestry collided with her public pronouncements, Sunny fumbled. She mumbled. She perhaps clutched her pearls so hard they threatened to shatter. Her usual confidence evaporated, replaced by the deer-in-headlights look of someone whose entire argument just got nuked from orbit. You'd think after years of dishing it out on The View, she'd have a better defense mechanism than simply hoping a commercial break would save her. It wasn't just Tomi's facts that did the damage. It was the devastating ease, the surgical precision with which her grandstanding was dismantled. All that pre-packaged indignation popped like a cheap balloon.
If Democrats really want to die on the hill of bringing back plane loads of criminal, illegal alien gang members...
But you haven't proven that they're criminals.
Please,
that's the problem.
Be my guest.
Honestly, look, I will be the first one to say if there is a criminal, if there's a gang member in this country, someone who has committed any crime, big or small, get him out. Sure, I'll absolutely concede that. We don't need criminals in this country. But if you're talking about somebody who you don't know because you haven't afforded them due process, then you can't just make that claim.
But the fact remains, President Trump is not only securing our border, but he is deporting criminal, illegal aliens. And if Democrats want to stand in the way of that, and they want to tell their constituents, hey, vote for us in the midterms, vote for us in 2028, we'll make sure that the criminal aliens come back, far be it for me to stand in your way.
Watching Sunny scramble to salvage her intellectual pride was, frankly, the most unintentionally hilarious reality show of the week. She tried the classic pivot, maybe deflect, maybe invoke her personal struggle as a shield, because in Sunnyland, yelling as a woman of color is apparently a magical incantation that makes accountability disappear. But Tomi didn't blink. She just kept calmly laying out the contradictions, the hypocrisy, the sheer absurdity of Sunny's position. It wasn't a shouting match. It was a quiet demolition. All Tomi had to do was sit back, maybe offer a smug smile or a raised eyebrow, and let Sunny talk herself into a philosophical tailspin. Sunny thought she was on the offense, delivering a scathing critique, blissfully unaware she was broadcasting her own incoherence and hypocrisy live on national television. Tomi just held up that mirror, reflecting every condescending smirk and logical dead end right back at her. It wasn't a battle. It was a public service announcement on the dangers of unchecked arrogance. Sunny Hostin, the self-appointed intellectual standard bearer of daytime TV, got effortlessly obliterated, and Tomi Lahren didn't even need to raise her voice. Sometimes, the best way to win is just to let your opponent keep talking.